MG. Clark, MG, MG, MG. Good boy. Good boy. Head up. Come on. Come on. Come on. Head up. Come on. Come on. Good boy. Come on. Good boys. Yeah. Good boys. Come up. Come up.
When you gonna get the hut?
Tomorrow at 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about?
Back in front of the fort. Yeah. Step up. See how they kind of lean into the yoke? She speeds up Clark, slows down Lewis. Lewis is the far ox. To get him to go to the right. You notice how they don't move real fast? They're not fast walkers. They're slow plotters. Willing workers, but not real fast. Slides over to the front quarter to give the hog command. They want to go in their pen. They know that's a life of ease. She gives the backup command. She taps them on the brisket or the lower leg and gets to respond to that. That's one of the hardest commands for oxen to follow through, because they can't see behind themselves.
Step up. Come on. Step up, boys. Come on. Step up. Good G. 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 Come up. Come up. G. Whoa. Good boy.
Do the back again.
Back up, boys. Back up. Back up. Back up. Back up. Back up.
Clark's not wanting to back up, so she's going to increase pressure on him
Back up.
till he responds.
Good boy.
So Clark is the near ox. We call him the nigh ox, and he's the closest to the driver. The driver's operating zone is from the front around to this front quarter is where she operates. History says that when the automobile manufacturers were trying to decide where to put our steering wheels in America, they decided on the left-hand side because teamsters, wagoneers, freighters all drove their livestock on the left-hand side. So that's how we was used to driving animals. The near ox is Clark, the far ox, which is the one over here, is Lewis, and they always yoke in the same position. You want your lead ox to be submissive, a willing worker, one that's about getting the job done, and the far ox is not as critical because he's just kind of coming alongside and getting the job done. In this relationship, we got these guys when they were about 3 months old, and they had been started out in the yoke, a 3-inch yoke. When I say 3-inch, it's this distance right here. This is a 7-inch yoke. As they get bigger, they go to a larger yoke. If you go in the fort here on the side of one of the cabins, you see about a 10-inch yoke. Is what we would call. We have a team. The team we have at home is in a 12-inch yoke, but they started out in a 3-inch yoke, very young, at about 3 months old, and we had Lewis as the lead ox. And he seemed to be kind of the dominant, we thought at the time, but as they continued to grow, we noticed that he's kind of a free spirit and kind of like gets distracted by the butterflies, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And he wasn't working well as a lead ox. He was kind of get distracted pretty easy. And so we switched him to Clark being in the lead ox, and it's really working a lot better having Clark as the lead ox. Once they find that role and they settle in that role, that's their lifetime role. You don't switch them back and forth. In fact, to illustrate that story, we was at the Indiana State Fair. We go there every year with our team. And
Step up. Come on. Come on.
there's a few other dynamics as we think about settling the Virginia territory or moving on further east in this time period. We're always going into Native American country. And history gives record Indians weren't just real fond of cattle. They would eat them in a pinch, but they weren't real fond of them to eat them. They were more prone to maybe run them off if you was harassed by the Indians. They loved to steal horses because horses were wealth to them. The more horses they had, the more wealthy they were. And they really enjoyed eating mules. And so, just from that perspective, you were more apt to get to your destination, although you may have to run them down if they got swept by the Indians with your oxen. Horses were kind of risky business. It was like going into the slums or in your Rolls Royce. You might not get there just because they liked your horses so well, they would make a sport to steal your horses. So that was another advantage. The disadvantage of the ox. What was it? They were slow. They didn't move as fast. Oxen walk at 3 miles an hour, like I mentioned. How many? Can anybody here tell me how many square feet is in an acre? Square feet. And what we call what's that?
4,280.
43,560.
There you go. You're really close, but he's right. And so the origin of that word is the amount of land a yoke of ox can plow in a day. So where that word comes from is the amount of land a yoke of ox can plow in a day. So just imagine, visualize if you're a family, you're moving your family here to this area or beyond. If you got a 2-acre truck patch, it's going to take you 2 days to plow it with these guys. Which that's better than doing it by hand, that's for sure. Any kind of questions?
When you start putting them the yoke, do you just tie them up and leave them?
Yeah. Yep, that's a good way to start. Just time up and get them used to standing beside each other. Then train them to lead with a halter. Yeah, start them out leading with a halter on an individual basis, and just walk, say whoa, step up, make them go, and whoa. Then do the command even at a halter level. And then what you do is you take your other ox, whether it was a big calf, and you just put a strap. In 2022, there's still more oxen being used around the globe than any other form of draft ox. That's pretty crazy. But in Africa, I got a friend that the native Indians, they start them out at about 3 or 4 years old. Because they're kind of past their adolescent years, mature a little bit. And over there, what they do is they take a trained one, and then they put 2 or 3 or 4 year old in with them and train them that way. But yeah, here in America, we would do it generally with calves. Yeah, start them out young. Historically in America, I was saying earlier when I did my earlier presentation, Dad would be out plowing, and Mama would want a milk cow on the farm, or a couple milk cows, because all the goodies that come from dairy products. And you'd have a community bowl, and to keep those cows giving milk, they'd have to be fresh, is the farming term, given a calf. And then you would take those calves, and it was a lot of times these little kids that would train the calves to become oxen, which I think is really kind of cool. It gave them a job to do, and so yeah. My daughter has worked on training these. I mean, she's done most of the training on them. So yeah. What other questions you guys have?
In the 1860s, do you see any illustrations using oxen for draft animals, pulling supply wagons in the 1860s?
Yeah. So the Confederacy, by the end of the war, down Petersburg, I know one county, Petersburg, they used actually oxen to pull field pieces.